Hello, my name is Trey Gleghorn. I am a senior at Arkansas State University. My major is Computer Information Technology, but today I'm going to be talking about Porter's Five Forces analysis. What Porter's Five Forces analysis does is it allows you to analyze the global industry that you're competing in. Porter's Five Forces analysis is used to better understand the market that you're competing in. This will allow you to better compete against the other competitors in your current industry. It is used by analyzing certain areas or forces, as it's called. This provides an excellent benefit relating to strategically managing your company. For example, a CPU maker will analyze how they do in a current market, such as the CPU market, or it will allow them to judge other markets in case they're wanting to branch out into new emerging markets. In Porter's Five Forces analysis, what you have to look at are 5 different areas. In this situation, we're going to be evaluating a company in the CPU industry. Advanced Micro Devices, or AMD, makes quality CPU products for their customers. Their main competitor is Intel. Anyway, the 5 forces that we're going to look at are threat of new entrants, buying power in the CPU industry, supplier power in the CPU industry, threat of substitutes from CPUs. Also, we're going to look at competitive rivalry, which in this case would be Intel. The threat of new entrants in the CPU industry is awfully low. The reason for that is it would take a substantial amount of capital to raise in order to get into the CPU industry. For example, you would have to have clean rooms, you would have to find suppliers for silicon wafers, which are what CPUs are made out of. Also, you would have to find engineers to actually make the product so you could have something to go off of. Also, you would have to have employees. You would have to have a lot of different stuff that isn't acquired by just walking down the street. Buying power in the CPU industry is high because AMD and Intel are giant corporations. They have a lot of power over their suppliers. Since there are more suppliers than there are buyers, this causes a problem. Buyers can demand a lower price than what would normally occur in other industries. Next up is supplier power in the CPU industry. In this case, it's low. As stated before, the suppliers don't really have a lot of control over the prices that they charge the buyers for buying their supplies. The reason for that is there's a lot less buyers than there are suppliers. There's numerous suppliers, so the buyers can go elsewhere if they choose to. Next, we're going to be looking at the threat of substitutes. In this case, the threat of substitutes is moderate. What this means is, instead of a CPU, what could you use? If there are no viable alternatives, then the threat of substitutes is low. In this case, it's moderate. The reason being is, recent technological improvements have proved that a GPU, or graphical processor unit, can actually be used to replace the central processing unit, or a CPU. In this case, this is a viable substitute. However, with the lack of implementation thus far, this is moderate. And last but not least is competitive rivalry, which is extremely high in this case. Intel and AMD have always had an intense rivalry amongst each other. Being the only 2 big boys on the block, it is easy to understand why they have such an intense rivalry. Well, in the mid-2000s, AMD actually had the top of the mountain. Intel had to play comeback, and they actually did. They sunk tons of money into R&D, and the result of that is now they control the market. Now we're going to be looking at strategic implications of the findings that we found. Alright, here's what you need to do. Whenever you do your Porter's Five Forces analysis in the industry, you need to find out the implications. The implications in this industry is the fact that we have a struggling competitor, such as AMD against Intel. Whenever you have this issue, you have to understand what you need to do to make things better. In my opinion, they need to take a combination strategy, a focused differentiation. They need to concentrate on R&D immensely and try to come up with new technologies to get into new markets since the PC market is declining. Or they could actually do R&D into a better type of computer that would actually bring some of the migrated users from the tablet community all the way back to the PC community, which is still possible. Anyways, this has been my presentation on Porter's 5 forces analysis. I hope you got a lot out of it. I hope you take away a lot of this so you can better compete in the industry. Anyways, have a good one, and thank you.